Hey mamas, welcome back to Kids OT Help. Today I am here with my good friend Nicole, and she's a licensed marriage and family therapist. And she's here to chat with us about how we can foster social emotional development in our children through having a strong family unit. But before we get going, I want to let you guys know that down below in the description box, I have a link to a completely free developmental milestone chart. So this developmental milestone chart is going to walk you through all the categories of development for the first year of your little one's life. So physical development, fine motor development, social emotional development, which we're covering today, cognitive skills, and language. So you can just print this out and put it on your fridge. It's a really great resource to turn to as your child grows and you know what's coming up next. All right, mamas, let's get into it. All right, Nicole, so why don't you share a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Great. So I'm Nicole. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I work primarily out of my private practice. And in the private practice, I focus on a whole range of clients, but I am certified as a Gottman Bring Baby Home Specialist and Educator, which means that I really focus on helping parents transition from just that couple relationship to now you have a child in the mix. And what does that mean for your couple relationship and what's that mean for your child? So that's really what I like to focus on in my private practice. And even if parents call in looking for support with their child and emotional and social development and milestones, I really like to meet with the couple first to see what's going on in the family home and is there any conflict or are there any things that need to be worked out in that couple relationship. So as a marriage and family therapist, it's really important to me to meet with the couple, the parents of the child first, because our parents are the ones who set the emotional foundation that our children grow up in. And as a new parent, you have on all these stresses that maybe you prepared for, maybe you didn't, right? You have exhaustion.
Yes. Sleep deprivation, all the things.
Yeah, you have the stress of work, the stress of maintaining your couple relationship.
Hormone changes.
Hormones,
yeah.
The stress of being a new parent. It's actually interesting. They did a study with single young adults who they deprived them of deep sleep for a month. And after a month, the studies showed that every single one of them was both clinically and biologically depressed.
Wow.
So now you take parents who have kids, and of course they're being sleep deprived, and now you have this layer of like depression on top of everything, and you're left to have this lovely relationship with your spouse and be the best parent possible. And that's tough. So you have this beautiful new little being in your life, and you have all these stresses that you may or may not have prepared for. And as a couple with all these other stresses, you're both getting worn down, you're both on edge, you don't have the skills anymore or the humor to cope with like normal life things, right? So not only are you and your spouse kind of maybe have some failed expectations, at odds with one another, but now this is going to translate to your child, and more than you know, they are so attuned to what's going on in that couple relationship. Even you think they don't know what's going on at 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, they do, and they feel all
the energy.
Yep, for sure. So every year, there's approximately 3.6 million babies that are born to parents in the U.S., and 2/3 of those are actually unhappy in their relationships within those first 3 years of the child's life. So many of us are in the same boat, right? So what does this mean for our kids? What does this mean for our kids when we're fighting? What does this mean for our kids when there's tension and maybe a couple or a spouse is giving the other the silent treatment, right? So when there's conflict in the home, our children are smarter than we know, and they really look for emotional regulation from us as parents. And when there's not regulation, when there's tension, a child is going to try to self-soothe and going to try to deal with that dysregulation. One of the ways they do so is by turning away their gaze from a caregiver so that they're able to really get themselves back in line emotionally. Sometimes this is the father, it could be the mother. They're going to turn away from the person who's not that main attachment caregiver, and they'll turn towards the person who is that main attachment caregiver. Whether it's the mother, grandmother, father, whoever takes care of that person, the child, the majority of the day. So as the child turns away and they're trying to emotionally regulate themselves, and they're turning away from one of the caregivers towards the main attachment caregiver, what happens is that main attachment caregiver is now left with the majority of the responsibilities and that attention from the child. And because there's distress in the relationship, that attachment caregiver is going to start missing emotional cues because they just can't cope with it all. And that happens in any relationship now, right? There's stress, there's exhaustion, you're going to miss the emotional cues, not only from your spouse, but now your child as well. So a child, like I said, may look away and you might think, oh, like they want me to play with them more, get more up in their face and engaged. What we're teaching our children is that it's not safe to express their emotions in a natural way. And we're teaching them that they don't have control and now someone else is going to control that emotional environment and that their emotions don't count, right? Yeah. It's very interesting because that's also mirroring the parent relationship. In a couple, when there's tension, you feel like your feelings and emotions don't matter to your partner because they're only trying to get their point of view across and vice versa. So when there's a pattern of this emotional disconnect, when a child feels that their emotions don't count and that their ability to self-soothe and communicate is not being received in a proper way, this is the foundation for all their future relationships and successes. So from school engagements, focus, attachment relationships with friends, partners, lovers in the future, it's going to disrupt every level of emotional development, and it all starts from that relationship that a child has with their parents.
Okay, so that was a lot of information, which is so helpful. So as a mom, you know, we're already sleep deprived, might be feeling overwhelmed and thinking, okay, what's next? We understand how not having a solid foundation in our marriage or in our relationship or in our partnership can negatively impact our little ones.
And now I'm adding this extra stress to
You're
your
adding
life.
this extra
Get
stress,
with
right?
it with your relationship. Yeah.
So what are some things that we can do? Because obviously as moms, we're looking to foster positive development in our child. And social emotional development is huge. As you mentioned, like future relationships and how they see themselves and present themselves to the world. So what are some actionable items that we can take from this information to implement in our day-to-day lives?
Right. So remember, we're all in the same boat, right? We're all eating the same soup. We're all going to have the same stresses. And it's not necessarily going to be getting rid of those stresses, but it's going to be how as a couple we manage it, right? So it's healthy conflict and managing healthy conflict, because we're going to have the conflict, right? So accepting that and managing that conflict. So as a therapist, I utilize Gottman's couples method when I work with couples and families. And in his approach, he explains that we have the masters versus the disasters. And I know that's a little bit of a harsh term, but if we go back to that 2/3 who are unhappy in their relationship in the first 3 years of the child's life, that's 2/3 that he'd label as the disasters. But it's more about differentiating what is that 1/3 of couples doing that they're able to manage that conflict in a healthy way. So there's several exercises and tools that we use, and I use as a therapist, to teach parents how to manage conflict in a healthy way. The tools and skills that these masters of relationships practice are skills that any of us can achieve. They're not overwhelming, they're straightforward.
Yeah, and if you're interested in going deeper and learning these exercises and how you can implement them day to day or when conflict arises between you and your partner, we will be covering this in our Evolving Littles membership. So mamas who are members, you're going to get the exercises. That way you can practice them at home and lay that solid foundation for your partnership and ultimately for your little one. The information for that will be down in the description box below. Big thanks to my friend Nicole for joining us. And if you guys are interested in learning more about what Nicole does or following along on her journey, her social information will be linked below in the description box. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Bye.